Welcome to Worlds Day 6, everyone, also known as the first day of the 2-1 bracket or round 4, day 1. Spoilers for those if you haven't seen those games yet. Over the 2-day break, I really dove into all the games and refined this tier list, and so here's the tier list as it existed before this day. We'll see if this day changes some things at the end of the video. The most important thing that happened in day 6 was FlyQuest taking a game off Hanwha Life, so let's jump right into that. So in game 1, we see some immediate red flags for FlyQuest. Zeka's Yone is known to be super good, Doran's Jax is really good, and Bwipo is not on one of those champions where he can really dive in and out, which he likes so much, like the Renekton we saw a ton of a few days ago. Here we see Busio miss everyone with the hostile takeover. But here we do see the Amumu power coming in. Urgot stun up the Yone into a Amumu stun, into a Amumu ultimate, that's the long stun. Yone doesn't have a chance. And here we see kind of what I'm talking about. The Urgot doesn't have the same kind of burst power that Renekton has, so in these slower fights, you just give time for the Yone to get there, and then once the Yone gets to this fight, ultimate across, it's too late. And then you can see how nasty Sejuani and Kai'Sa are at getting these picks, because a stun from Sejuani means Kai'Sa can instantly come in. So we see Bwipo's kind of doing the same thing on the Urgot that he used to do on the Renekton, just dive in to get a bunch of cooldowns out and then flash out and don't die. It works okay here. They get one. And then here, Viper thinks he can get the kill, but Bwipo has the CC back up, the shield and the CC into Rel CC. And this was probably a wasted stopwatch. Bwipo too tanky. So Viper kind of falling right into Bwipo's trap, which is I want you to think you can kill me because I'm always building hyper tank and always have my team there to back me up. And so this ends up sacrificing the Baron. And so even though you can kind of tell in the fights that the players on HLE are a little bit better, these macro calls are terrible, and HLE just playing a lot worse than they were playing previously in the tournament. Here, Bwipo's risky, I'm going to try to waste all your cooldown strategies, really doesn't work out because he's too far caught out and he actually dies before his team can come and save him. And there's just nothing left for Fly without Bwipo frontlining. So it's a little bit of an optical illusion where FlyQuest looks better than they are because Hanwha Life is playing so bad, but then because Hanwha Life is actually really good, even if they play bad, it's easy for them to come back and win the game, basically. Here in game 2, we see a lot of spiciness. We see Zeka on the Yasuo, who's a horror. I could not imagine a worse mid laner to put Zeka on, one of the best players in the world, on one of the worst mid lane champions. And then we see Inspired on Nunu, which just like hasn't happened in the top 4 region in like 5 years or something. Such an obscure pick. And then we see that Bwipo might have a little more agency on this Olaf than he had on the Urgot, much more mobile champ and has that CC immunity. So we see this gank here on Bwipo. He pops the ghost and he tries to clean up as many minions as he can, basically, but only gets about half of them. Then we see here CS is 25 up and they continue to bully the Olaf, gank him again. Ultimate is not really useful against a Renekton who's a level higher than you. Nunu hype. We see the first Nunu gank. It's this good stun on Doran. Nunu haters in shambles, but actually Nunu's not a good champion in pro, but that's a story for another day. And here Bwipo actually doesn't have ultimate back up yet, and so the Renekton with the ultimate can actually kill him in time. Continuing to bully Bwipo, now 3 deaths in the first 11 minutes. Here we see why Nunu is not good in pro. If you miss this snowball, say because the Yasuo flashes out, then the Nunu has nothing else to offer. This Yasuo can just 1v2 hit them because the Nunu is so useless. That ultimate damage, like 50 ultimate damage. And then here is the first crack we see in Hanwha Life's game. Zeka way too far up. Even without this teleport coming in, he's probably dead to the Olaf and the Nunu. And so just no reason for Zeka to be there. And then same thing from Doran this time, way caught out, thinks he can teleport out, but doesn't know that Nunu has the CC. But still, despite those questionable macro plays, HLE is still in the lead. This is a great dragon fight from them. Poppy here, charging up the ult, knocks the Nunu out, and Zyra just hops in and steals the dragon. And then Bwipo just has a WTF moment. What the frick, goes into 4 and just gets popped instantly. So HLE in a really good spot right now. But instead of just backing up, they go in. Yasuo goes in, can't help himself, but Yasuo is one of the worst champions in the game. So he dies instantly, and Delight goes down as well. So HLE just being a little overconfident. They go for this 20-minute Baron, so 20-minute Barons are a lot slower because you don't have all that DPS yet. So Zyra has to burn the R to try to get more plants to burst this Baron down, but that of course means she doesn't have the R for the fight. And then they just don't burn it as fast as they thought, and they are totally not prepared to turn and jump on this fight. So they just run away, but Inspired keeps it leashed. And they just kind of look like they were not prepared to take this fight at all. They don't know exactly what to do. Yasuo jumps in, but they drop the Baron. Yasuo, once he uses the ult, just has nothing to offer in this fight. Bwipo's just going insane on the back, and Yasuo can't do anything. So now we're racking up 3, 4, 5 mistakes from Onwa. FlyQuest actually takes the lead, and so Onwa really has to stop making mistakes, or else this is going to go south really fast. But they're still a little bit locked in this overconfident mindset where they think they're ahead. So here we see that Peanut sees Bwipo right here on the control ward, and instead of backing up, he deliberately walks forward into this corner, and Bwipo just kills him. So Peanut just totally not respecting that they're not super far ahead in this game anymore. And then more disrespect from Doran. They're just acting like they still have the lead. This is a level 14 Renekton against a level 15 Wei. You are not the tank that you think you are. Just instantly dead. So FlyQuest isn't doing anything super amazing here, right? Onwa Life, just 5, 6, 7 mistakes. This is maybe the first good thing that Nunu's done all game. Zeka tries to TP out here, but Nunu is so fast with the snowball. That was so awesome. And then here they just give over Dragon Soul. I don't know if they have a lot of gold or down on items, but for whatever reason, they do not feel good and they lose the Dragon Soul, and that's the end pretty much. Here we see a FlyQuest coming in, and Peanut, in my opinion, just waiting way too long to drop the Zyra ulti. A Zyra ulti right here could be good to separate the team. Poppy ult, great here, coming down, knocks the Kalista out of the fight. Bwipo being his usual self, going in way too far all by himself, but that leaves no answer for Doran on the right side. So they take care of Bwipo on the left side. Doran has no answer on the right side, really. And then here, Masu rescues Busio, and they need to get out of there. But for some reason, Busio is thrown back in to 3. So many bad Busio engages this series. So FlyQuest not playing super well here, right? They had a 5k gold lead, they had a Dragon Soul, and they still lost the fight 2-3. Here in this fight, another bad Busio engage where he goes way too far. He gets killed. Again, they're 6k gold up with a soul, and they're not decisively winning these fights. FlyQuest is not doing anything special this game. This was purely HLE threw away this game. And then here, HLE don't have to do this. Their Renekton is dead versus the dead support, so they have the weaker 4v4 right now. Plus they have Yasuo, who sucks, so they don't have to fight this right now. But they start the dragon up, and then it's too late for them to get off of it. To try to make the Yasuo useful, the Poppy comes over the wall here with the knock-up to get the Yasuo into the backline. But even with the Yasuo in the backline, nothing happens. Viper does a great job getting a lot of damage down, but it's just not enough. And FlyQuest are luckily able to win with the Elder Dragon. Here, HLE showing a lot of respect to Bwipo, shutting down the Olaf, the Renekton, and the Ivern, saying no more playmaking Bwipo. He ends up on Scion duty, which is probably not where he's strongest. Here on the bottom, Viper's just disgusting. Gets feathers down, pulls all the feathers back, does so much damage when you get all those feathers. And then he goes up in the R, and he actually predicts that Masu will flash out of this. And they flash at the same time, so he gets all that R damage down. insane. Viper winning the 2v3. Disgusting. And so nothing really happens this game. Onwa Life just does a hard factory reset, resets the modem, makes very few mistakes this game, plays like they did earlier in the tournament, gets a 10k gold lead. Just the Skarner and Xayah, those two people alone, doing so much AoE damage. They're 10k gold up, so doesn't mean much, but... So a lot of people were criticizing FlyQuest here for kind of not doing anything spicy that could have caused Onwa Life to make those same mistakes that they made in the first two games, which I think is valid. I personally think that Onwa Life losing in game 2 was like super strange, and nothing FlyQuest could have done would have gotten them that game 3 win. But I agree that if it were a little spicier, they might have caused Onwa Life to make a few more mistakes and maybe had a bit more of a chance. Here in Top Esports versus D plus Kia, D plus have the ability to just let this turret go. But nope, they say they want to stay and fight it, which you can see is pretty risky considering they're both at 50% HP. I think maybe they think they have a 3 coming in and don't know Tian is there. But now they're stuck with no turret support. And ice beats fire every time. D plus Kia were already having a bad early game, and this just pushed it over the edge. Now 3.2k gold up from top, and that is actually an insane amount of gold to be up at 14.5 minutes. This game is basically over as long as Top Esports doesn't make any horrible mistakes. If you watched my champion tier list video, I talked about how Xin Zhao often feels like the tankiest champ in the game, and we see a good example of that here. Here, Tian and the Xin Zhao, they try to take him underneath the turret. Here he is in blue, looking like he'll die. But he uses the ultimate, which pushes everyone away from him and makes it so that none of this damage coming in on him will do anything. And then they stun up Kingin, who's the only person who could have damaged him. Xin Zhao, good champ. And Top Esports don't make any terrible mistakes, so they just snowball that lead into a 10k gold lead and the game. Here we just see a giant blunder from Moham because nothing else can happen when you Zenith Blade in here under the turret than that the Rel will knock you back and stun you. That's exactly what happens. Takes 2 turret shots and he's dead. So no excuse there from Moham, just kind of crumbling under the pressure. 369 looking absolutely amazing this tournament, probably one of the best top laners. And here the Jax just used his E, and so that's why 369 is jumping in. The Jax is also running out of mana, so he can't even use, if he uses his R, I think he won't even have Q mana. So Kingin just doesn't really know what to do because he doesn't have E and he doesn't really have any mana. 369 just bodies him. Here we see what looks like it should be a nice bullet time from aiming, but Tian kind of just walks out. 369 Cassante is just using W to absorb all of it and W's out. The Kalista just saves the Rel. So all 3 people who were caught in the bullet time just kind of walk out, and the bullet time ends up not getting anything done. If you're not getting bullet time value out of your misfortune, you're not getting any value during that fight. Here we see an absolutely mad lad play from Tian. The R from Yone is about to come out, and Tian can see that R and exactly where it's going to land. So Tian presses R right now, pointed where the Yone is going to land. So even though the Skarner gets stunned up, his R still casts through stun and suppresses Yone. And the Yone is just suppressed for so long, and you see how squishy Yone is here. So we may be seeing the beginning of the Skarner counter to Yone, that if you just R where the Yone is going to, your R will always go off. So we may see Skarner start to pick up as a counter to Yone. That would be really exciting to see. And then here later in the fight, Showmaker TP's back in, but Yone can't do anything without ult. So it's just kind of funny to watch. Here we see a really great fight from both teams, just showing that they're both really great teams. Got the suppression down here, and then JackeyLove gets rooted down by the Leona. He decides to go over the wall and try to fire from there. Showmaker and Kingin decide to follow him over the wall, but JackeyLove pulls Rel over the wall, and then Tian goes over the wall, so the entire fight shifts over into the buff pit. And they're just peeling super hard for JackeyLove, but he gets snagged there by the Yone R. At the same time, Skarner really good in those close quarter fights, and 369 again coming up huge for the team. Top Esports just totally taking their eyes off this teleport because doesn't look like JackeyLove has any idea that the Jax is there. Just runs right into him. Not very hard to fight once the Kallista's down. DK actually ends up getting the Baron off of that, so big mistake from TES, looking a little weaker this game than they did the last game. Here, we just see DK doesn't really commit hard enough. This is a 4v5. They should just kind of all be going in as much as they can, but they kind of play it a little too slow, and they let TES kind of wiggle their way out of here. DK just doesn't do a lot of damage without that MF ultimate, and aiming does not see any good angle for that, so he's just not doing any damage. So the Yone goes in with the Q3 and the R, but the MF is just not able to get any damage down. Their comp doesn't have any damage to help the Yone out. We can see when aiming does actually get a hit, he does a lot of damage. Great, getting just the corner of this bullet time to kill Mako. Great pick before the Baron fight. But then Moham has like his third or fourth bad Leona engage of the series. And he gets killed. And then quite sloppy here for Top Esports to allow this 50-50. They should have turned on this fight way earlier, because Lucid very well could have stolen that. So TES just showing a lot of vulnerability in this game. Still clearly the better team than DK, but makes me a little worried moving forward. Yone just can't play when there's no engage for him. His ult is just too slow. He missed every single person there. Even though TES looked a little more vulnerable in that second game, over the entire course of the tournament, they've put up so many solid performances that I still have them as my second best team in the tournament. I was not happy with the way that HLE played against FlyQuest at all, so I'm dropping them all the way down to A tier. Showed so much vulnerability in multiple of those games versus FlyQuest. D plus Kia, I also think, made so many mistakes with those support engages and just in general looked really shaky that I'm going to put them at the top of B tier instead of the bottom of A tier. So still the same position, but more in line with these teams in the B tier than with these really strong teams on the A tier. FlyQuest, I'm sorry, NA fans, hopefully I'm wrong, but I just didn't see anything super impressive out of FlyQuest that series. I just saw a ton of weakness out of HLE. They still might make it top 8. I think they have a good chance of beating Weibo. I think they're about as strong as Weibo, and they have a really good chance of beating TL if they see them in the 2-2 bracket or GAM. But I'd put them at like maybe a 25% chance of getting to the top 8 at this point. Which of these three B tier teams are going to go to top 8 is like totally up in the air to me. I think it's going to be D plus and BLG and one of the others, but really not sure. All right, another fantastic day of games. Make sure you're subscribed. If you haven't, catch up on days 1 to 5. See my other content, champion tier list, crystal ball stuff, crystal ball spreadsheet. So much good content there. Check out the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.